Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another Minecraft episode. Today, as you can see, we are in a super flat redstone / creative world, and it's not because I'm doing anything very large redstone wise, but it's because this is a perfect canvas for the video style that I have planned for today. And that is, we're going to start a series where we're looking at 10 facts about different blocks within Minecraft. And we are going to start that off, or our adventure off today, with facts about dirt. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, you can't really do that many things with dirt, but you'd be surprised as to just how versatile of a block dirt is. So let's jump into the facts here, shall we? So fact number one, of course, has to do with a relatively well-known fact about dirt, is you have a field of dirt here, nothing really special about it, but if you take one piece out and you replace it with a block of grass, you'll see that it slowly spreads across the remainder of the area. Now, that did go faster than grass typically spreads because I have altered the tick speed in this world, but that is a feature that is available for both dirt and mycelium, which is a block that is commonly found on the mushroom type biomes. Now, something that you need to remember about this, and let's go ahead and showcase that same effect with the mycelium here. You see it spreads just about the same, but one key difference between this and the mycelium and dirt is that the grass will spread onto dirt at a relatively constant tick speed as long as the light level is at 4 or higher. Mycelium requires a light level of 9 or higher in order to spread. So do keep that in mind whenever you're working with that. Moving on to fact number 2, we have ourselves another field of dirt, and at a first glance this looks to be about the same, but you'll notice that if I knock out a block and I put in a standard block of grass, it does not spread the same way that it does in others. That is because we are now dealing with what's called coarse dirt. Now, coarse dirt can be found organically throughout the world, but it can also be crafted. It's actually the only recipe which dirt can be used in order to make another block. Now, that is done by combining 2 pieces of dirt with 2 pieces of gravel in a crafting table, kind of like this. Right, like that. And you'll see that we can now make 4 pieces of coarse dirt. But a lesser known thing about coarse dirt is the fact that if you come over to coarse dirt with your hoe and you hoe the ground like you would for making farmland, which we'll get into in just a moment, you can actually convert it into standard dirt. You do not get the gravel back on this, so do be aware of that being a possibility, but you'll now see that the grass does spread to the dirt blocks as it normally would following its random tick speed generation. The third fact about dirt actually has to do with snow. Now, as you can see here, I'm missing the first row of dirt in our little showcase area, and that is because we are needing that so you can see the effect that happens here. Now, in any biome, a grass dirt block will look like this. The grass on top will alter a little bit depending on where you're at or what biome it is. That's why it kind of looks dull and unalive here, is because this testing world is set in kind of a desert type biome with the sandstone. But one thing that you can do to alter the appearance of a dirt block is if you place snow on top of it, or if snow naturally generates on top of this block, you'll see that it changes the side of the block to match more of that snowy texture. And if you have resource packs that further alter the appearance of that snow, you'll notice that it does creep down the entire side of the block if that's the type of resource pack that you've chosen. That being said, it only has this appearance when there is a layer of snow on top, and if the snow gets too deep, then it will eventually lose that texture overall, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it comes with the territory. And you'll notice here that as soon as you knock the snow off top of it, it disappears as well, which is a little bit unfortunate because I would really like to be able to use this type of snow block in builds and theming areas without having to rely on snow being placed on top of it. but that simply is not the case, unfortunately. Now you'll notice here that for fact number 4, we needed to switch our game to a survival mode, and that is because we need to talk about the variations on the dirt blocks. So we have our mycelium over here, our grass right here, and our podzol over here. We haven't talked a lot about podzol, but we will touch on that in just a brief moment, or go into some more depth on podzol in a moment. But one thing that's important to note with this is that if you attempt to harvest mycelium with a standard tool, any standard tool, you will get a block of dirt back from it, and that includes the podzol. But if you do the exact same thing using a tool, preferably a shovel, as that's the best method of harvesting these blocks. If you use a shovel that has silk touch on it, you will instead harvest the block itself rather than harvesting the actual dirt that it's made on. Another important thing to remember about podzol is very different from the grass and mycelium blocks, where if you cover up a block of mycelium, you will eventually lose that mycelium effect on the under-affected block, which will then recover after a short period of time after it becomes uncovered. Same type of thing goes for the grass block. You see that there's no longer a grass texture here, but that rule is not followed by podzol. You can stack podzol on top of podzol without it losing the effect of the podzol. You see there's still that particle effect over here, so you can stack podzol on top of itself without risking it losing that effect. Now fact number 5 has to do with the farming aspect of dirt. Now you'll see here that we have ourselves some farmland, and the way that you create farmland is by right-clicking with a hoe on a dirt block. I'm going to quickly uncreate this farmland here, and that's an important thing to remember as well, is if you or a mob tramples this ground, mobs will do it just by kind of walking over it, but you can deliberately remove farmland by hitting it too hard and converting it back to regular dirt. But if you use the right-click aspect of your hoe, you can then turn that dirt back into farmland, and that works on the other grass blocks that we've looked at as well, or the other dirt variation blocks. However, it will only stay in this format as long as it is within 4 spaces of a water supply. And it does not have to be a source block, it just needs to be a water supply. So you'll see here down at the end, even though this water is fairly shallow, it still upkeeps the connection with dirt that's over here. Now, if we try to till this ground over here with our hoe, it will eventually tick back to just being the standard ground that it is. And it varies based on the tick speed. Of course, this is going a lot faster in my world here because it's, well, I've got the tick speed up higher as we mentioned earlier, but it will not stay in this format if it is not within 4 blocks of water. But while it is, you can actually grow a couple of really nice things in this farmland, which includes but is not limited to wheat, beetroot, carrots, potatoes, and then you can also grow pumpkins and melons in this area as well. Now, the way that pumpkins and melons will spawn is a little bit different because they grow first a stem and then they will later produce a fruit, hopefully to the side where it's actually usable. And if it does grow on top of your farmland, well, it's going to undo that, unfortunately. So do keep that in mind as you are putting together your farms. Now, fact number 6 about dirt is actually kind of more a fact about the grass specifically, because once you have a grass block, you can then use a shovel, and similar to a hoe, how we right-clicked on it, we can now use a shovel and convert this ground into path blocks. And that is kind of, it can be used for different texturing, creating walking path areas. You can see that it kind of mats down the ground and even gives it the same level effect as the farmland as it goes down and shaves off the top level of this block. Now, unlike the other blocks that we've seen that you can harvest back into your inventory with a Silk Touch shovel. If we use a Silk Touch shovel on a path block, we will instead get a dirt block back in return. So there's not a same rate of return, I guess you could say, when it comes to acquiring a path block, or a path block is not a block that can be held in your inventory. So keep that in mind as well. The other thing that you may want to keep in mind is that you cannot place snow, or snow will not fall and rest on top of blocks that are in the path block format, nor will it fall onto farmland or stay on farmland. So remember back in fact number 4 where we talked about the variations on dirt blocks? Well, here is fact number 7, which has to do with the creation of Podzol. And this was a fact that I didn't know for quite some time, but you can actually create your own Podzol instead of relying on farming it out of the overworld with a Silk Touch shovel or buying it off of the Wandering Trader, which even doing it that way, you're only going to get a certain amount of it. In order to create Podzol, you will need to place spruce trees down in a 4x4 formation for the large tree type effect, and as it grows into the mega tree, you will see that all of the ground underneath it gets converted into Podzol, and that includes the block immediately under the tree itself. And that is important to remember because Podzol, unlike some of the other blocks that we've looked at, does not suffocate when you place another block on top of it, and it does retain its property. From here, of course, if you want to have it placed somewhere else, you will need to resort to using your Silk Touch shovel to harvest it up and use it. But that is a new mechanic that I learned while putting together the facts for this video, and I hope that you are now aware of it as well to use it to your benefit also. Fact number 8 regarding dirt has to do with the blocks that can be planted on it, or the goods that can be planted on it. So as we saw with the farmland, there are certain variants of plants that need to be planted on the tilled soil and sourced with water, but there are a couple of other plants that can be grown on dirt. One of which is sugarcane, and the sugarcane is a little bit different than some of the other ones where you cannot place it on a block that is not immediately adjacent to water. So you can plant your sugarcane here and here, but you cannot plant it here despite that corner being connecting. So this does behave a little bit differently than the standard farmland that we saw over there. And then sugarcane can grow up to the height of 4. It typically stagnates around 3. So once it gets up to this height, you're better off just going ahead and harvesting out of it. Though we'll let these continue to sit here and see if our random tick speed can get us up to the height of 4, as we know that it can grow. The other blocks that can be planted on dirt, and subsequently the grass variant of dirt, is bamboo. And bamboo has a very quick growth rate, even in lower tick rate areas. It has a very quick rate at which it can grow, and grows up quite high. We can also plant sweet berries here, and sweet berries are nice for a consistent food source that grows relatively quickly as well, though do be advised that you will move slower through them, and since they are a bramble type bush, you do take damage when walking directly through those if you are in a survival type world. The last one, of course, we saw over here with this one, but you can also plant saplings on dirt, and they will eventually grow up into trees as well. So no real surprise with that. Fact number 9 about dirt is in regards to an alternate farming technique, which is kind of advanced. At least the way that I have it set up is kind of advanced, but it is beneficial. So you'll see here I have this fancy little button. It's unique to any of the other test plots that we've looked at so far, or we'll look at here in a moment. And this has to do with a setup that I have going on down underneath here. So if we take a peek under, I've rigged up some dispensers and some redstone down underneath this, and upon flicking the button here, or clicking the button, you'll notice that we get a lot of plant growth, which includes flowers and variations on tall and short grass. Now, the way that this works is these dispensers that I just showcased, they're filled with bone meal, and upon being activated and dispensing their bone meal into a block, they will allow that block to generate some other terrain. Now, it doesn't generate on every single block, and there is variation on the positioning of that grass as it does so, but you'll notice that there is a very wide selection here, and it's because I have 4 different dispensers that all put out bone meal at the exact same time. This is very useful when it comes to building up flower farms. Especially if you're needing large amounts of dye, you can set up a farm similar to this or identical to this in a flower forest biome, and you can then receive a bunch of the materials which you would need for large industrial amounts of most types of dye, as most dyes can be acquired through the use of flowers, though there are some that have to be acquired via other means. And fact number 10 is actually something that I can't showcase here because it would kind of ruin with the overall aesthetic of the world, but that is a caution when it comes to using dirt in your terrains and structures. And that specifically has to do, or this precaution particularly comes with building things out of redstone on dirt. Now, the reason you do not want to do this wherever you can avoid it is because dirt and all of the blocks that we've talked about today, with the exception of the Podzol blocks, can be manipulated by Endermen. They can be picked up and the Enderman can wander off with it. And that includes blocks that have redstone dust lying on top of them. You can see, since there's 2 different hitbox detections here, and Enderman can decide that for whatever reason this is the block that he wants, and upon grabbing it, well, that's going to break your redstone and anything else that you're doing with it. I don't do a whole lot of work with redstone personally. I'm still trying to work out some of the things with it. I've got a basic understanding of the base functions of it, but I have had a couple of my redstone contraptions compromised because of the Enderman griefing tactic. So do keep that in mind if you plan on making any sort of redstone build, that you want to, wherever possible, avoid using dirt blocks or any other block that Enderman can manipulate and grief in your builds. But that is going to do it for today's episode. If you found it helpful or interesting, please feel free to drop a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily videos. They're not all Minecraft related, but I'm sure that you will enjoy the different type of content that I have coming to you every day. And that subscription is free and easy, so what do you really have to lose? So thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye.